right, here we go on a Wednesday. It's Mr. Irrelevant of Alex Strouf with you, from the Gruber Law Offices, one Call That's All studio at the Avenue in downtown Milwaukee. I'm a little flustered off the top because Josh just told me he hated me because I drink cherry cola.
That's not how it happened. I walked by, noticed you had a drink. You are a drink psycho.
What do you mean?
You drink at like a 15-year-old kid whose parents aren't home. Like, that's how you consume sodas. Like, you're sneaking them and pounding them while you're playing Halo in the basement.
Well, that's not. I drink one soda a day.
I see you drinking sodas more than anyone I know.
But that's because I usually get a soda around lunchtime, right? And then it carries. I usually don't finish. This one I'll probably finish by 2:00. But usually I'll open a Coke or something around noon, and I probably won't finish it until about 4:30.
And you're the one who said, "Why do you hate me?" And I was just responding with, you're drinking a weird-looking Coke.
Okay.
It's red. It's got a tinge to it.
Yeah, so the place I went to today, I think they actually, because there's like little pieces of cherries floating, so I think they actually put cherry juice in it and then just like added the cola.
Huh.
The Coke, if you will. So, anyway, I hate you too, by the way. Hunter Vaughn is with us back at the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison as well. Oh, boy. What the hell are you wearing or not wearing?
I told you I was going to do this. Sun's out, guns out today. I'm glad you listened to me.
Josh, do you see him?
I haven't seen him yet. I'm pulling it up now. I remember Hunter telling us about his tattoo and how he wouldn't be able to wear sleeves.
He is wearing a vest without an undershirt currently.
Yeah.
So it's like a vest that's zippered up.
Sun's out, guns out, baby.
Just past the nipples. And, Hunter, it looks like you don't really have chest hair, so no chest hair flowing in the wind for you.
I do. It's just a little bit. This luckily covers it up, so doesn't make me look as hairy as I am.
There's a lot of questions to ask. First one on B. How has the office taken to your outfit?
Luckily, it's kind of sparse today, so we've been good. No calls to HR that I know of yet. So that's good. I mean, I can show you guys the tattoo.
Let's see it.
I'm really proud of it. Let's see if I can angle myself.
It's on the other arm.
Yeah. So I don't know if this
there we
is...
go. Yeah, there you go. We see it. You're a little low now. Radio.
I'm behind, so I can't react because I'm looking.
Radio. It's like an old school radio with a couple of knobs. It's very colorful. Lots of greens, blues, reds, yellows. It's kind of dope, actually. Is that a rose next to it? Is that a flower?
It is. It's a rose. He just threw that in, add some extra color to it. So
I'm seeing it now. It's like an American traditional, much like the one I got of the Grateful Dead skull.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Tattoo show. People forget.
Color pops, bold lines.
Yeah. It's gonna hold up a long time.
Yeah. Yes. The question is the meaning your profession, or is it something, or is it just you thought it was cool? Like, what's going on?
Profession. I've been doing this for over 10 years now, a little over 10 years, and I was like,
really?
At this point, yeah. I mean, I worked at a radio station before GKB. I had a life before I joined this company. So
it's like, geez, I didn't know you've been here that long.
No, I've been with GKB for this will be 6 years. But then, I had 4 years of radio before that, working up in Berlin, Wisconsin. So I was like, you know what? This is clearly a part of me now. So let's get a radio on my skin forever.
Do you guys suffer from the same thing with people's lives really don't exist for you outside of the way in which you know them?
Slow way down. What did you just say?
So people only exist in the way that you know them. You don't. It's like the classic, your teacher in school having like a life or interest is something you could never fathom.
Sure.
So Hunter having another job in radio before this was impossible for me to fathom.
Sure. Well, believe it or not, it's true. He has referenced it many times to me, so I guess I was super aware.
Yeah, I have not heard that. I thought Hunter came from wherever. You could have told me he was out of college and said, "Hey, this is my first job."
Who's older between the two of you? Probably Joshy.
I must be.
How old are you?
I'm 36.
Oh, Jesus, you're getting old. Hunter, you're what, 32, 33?
33.
33.
So.
Okay.
Hunter to me has been 30. since I've known him. So,
and you
And you've
knew
known
me
him
as
for
an
how long?
intern in Milwaukee. So
yeah.
How old were you when you were an intern?
that would have been like 25 then. Because
So you were an older intern.
yeah, well, like I've told this story before on the air. Graduated high school 2010, went to River Falls, had a .94 GPA. Was told,
High.
Hell yeah.
told I couldn't go back to any UW school for a year. So,
Understandable.
yep, took a year off, worked at a gas station, and then was like, you know
Okay,
what?
hold on. I actually I have a follow-up question on the .94.
Yeah.
How?
Feels.
Lot of alcohol. Lot
Okay.
of alcohol. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that adds up. So,
Yeah.
But how do you calculate to a .94? Would that be like a D plus and a bunch of Fs?
I mean, you could probably get like a C
Yeah.
in there and then a bunch of
I was
Fs.
gonna say I got like
.94 is
what's wild
drastically
was
bad.
like I got like a B in my stats class, and like that was my best grade. And then like everything else, I was just like, I don't care, because it was open. It was open book, open notes. So like that was like the easiest class I took. But yeah, and then in my year,
Hold on.
oh jeez,
Hold on, Hunter. We're going to cut you off for a moment. Josh, you see what I'm seeing?
Yeah, I'm looking at Tori Lowe, who is standing in the market hall outside of the studio windows for The Truth. I see a camera crew.
Yep.
I don't know the man's name standing in front of him, but I recognize him from when the news is on. After I watch sporting events, he's from Fox 6.
Yes.
And I see him usually doing some of their.
Okay, you're missing the big thing here, pal.
Well,
What is Tori Lowe holding?
Tori Lowe, for some reason, has what looks to be a wrestling belt. I don't know what it's for. It seems to have a picture of somebody on it.
It is the 1017 The Truth logo with the Tori Lowe Show logo in the middle of it. It is a custom WWE Championship belt that he is holding while being followed by a camera crew.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Hunter. That was
no, that was
Tori
worth
Lowe,
stopping.
for those of
me.
you that aren't aware. Yeah, okay, thank you. For those of you that aren't aware, Tori Lowe, one of the all-time good guys. Longtime advocate in the Milwaukee community, host of the Tori Lowe Show from 1 to 4 on our sister station, 1017 The Truth. Does a million amazing things, including the Tori Lowe Community Cleanup, which is coming up Saturday, April 12th. You can sign up for that. Visit 1017thetruth.com for more information on that. I'll be out there. I assume Joshie will probably be out there with us.
Community cleanup?
Yeah.
You got it, brother.
So we'll be out there too. So I would imagine he's probably promoting that event in a couple weeks.
I would imagine it's something to do with
Given that he's holding a championship belt.
him being nominated for like show, and I mean Tori Lowe's winning all sorts of awards for like community advocacy and like help genuinely helping people and improving their lives.
Yes.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he got some award that we're unaware of and we'll hear
There
about
he goes.
shortly.
Now he's walking into the studio. What is going on here? He is one of the all-time good guys, but he is also one of the all-time like cartoon characters.
Yes.
You never know what he's going to say next. He was on Kyle Bruston Norton, the show I produced yesterday. Made a Hawk Tua reference. Did I see that coming? Absolutely not.
He likes to just walk up behind you, like when I'm sitting in the studio there, and just give me a hug.
He's a hugger.
Yeah,
He's a hugger.
which is not something I'm used to.
Yeah.
In at work, but when it comes to Tori Lowe, it's like, yeah,
It's allowed.
yeah,
It's absolutely allowed.
let that happen.
All right, let's. Wow. Okay, we've been sidetracked here the first 10 minutes. Hunter, good tattoo. What an outfit choice by him. Anytime he pops on the screen, I'm going to be immediately distracted.
Why did you not decide to go just cut off T-shirt?
I thought this looked more
I can't
professional.
look at him.
Wait, the vest is more professional.
Yeah. Of course it is.
I've never seen a human being legitimately wear a vest with nothing underneath it.
Yeah,
It looks like he's about to go on a boat.
for the audio listeners, it's not like it's a fleece vest, so something you typically would oftentimes wear long sleeves underneath.
But it kind of looks like he's about to go ride a jet ski.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I got a
Yeah.
life vest on.
I am blown away. What the hell is happening right now?
Is this something you should run by HR? Say, hey, is it acceptable for me to wear to go?
Should I have? Yes. Did I? No.
All right.
Yeah, it's fair.
Glad we're on the same page.
It's not as bad as Ben Brust, whose zipper broke on his pants. Ben Brust also famously does not wear underwear, and then was basically walking around. I believe he had one pin holding it shut for the entire day in the office.
When was this?
This was way back, Scales and Brust days, old office in Madison.
Oh, on the Capitol Square. Okay.
Yeah, and we tried to make a joke of it, and then we found out through HR, rightfully so, that Ben shouldn't be at work. He should have been sent home, and we were in risk of trouble. So
I apologize in advance for everything that just occurred. Actually, not in advance. I apologize after the fact.
I'm not apologizing.
Okay, let's get to work now. Let's get to the show, shall we?
I'm working. I'm grinding. I don't know about you.
Over at ESPN.com, Benjamin Solak, Joshy's favorite writer.
Yeah.
Power ranks all 32 NFL teams given their action in free agency or inaction. Not shockingly, the Packers check in at number 23 on the list, which is 10th to last, essentially. So they're in the bottom 10, essentially, in what they did/did not do in free agency. And for those of you that forgot, well, you didn't forget much. They re-signed kicker Brandon McManus. They brought in offensive guard Aaron Banks from the 49ers, and they signed cornerback Nate Hobbs from the Las Vegas Raiders. Hobbs viewed as, you just watching TikToks over there?
I opened my phone and that was what was up.
Thanks for being prepared.
Just started.
So you opened your phone right when I start talking?
Yeah.
Thanks for being engaged, Joshy. That's fantastic. Really,
well, you're going to mumble on here for 30 seconds, and then you'll give a take. So I'll be talking about 6 from now. So I'm going to catch up on some things while listening.
I'm so glad we made the executive decision a few weeks ago to invite Joshy into the studio where he can throw off my vibe and impede on me trying to entertain our great fans who are watching us on YouTube, listening on Apple Podcasts, listening on Spotify. Ridiculous the disrespect I get on a show that I created. Ridiculous. So Nate Hobbs, more of a depth corner for the Packers. The issue is the face Joshy just gave me if you're watching on the video stream. They don't have a lot of depth right now. But Nate Hobbs, probably not their first option at cornerback. That's going to end up being Keyshawn Nixon and Carrington Valentine, their top 2 corners. And Hobbs probably falls in third on that list, depending on what they end up doing in the draft. But he was paid a significant amount to come in and be a depth corner for the Packers. Aaron Banks will end up being likely your starting left guard for the Packers. Elton Jenkins likely will slide over to center and be your starting center there. And then Rasheed Walker, in last year's first-round pick, Jordan Morgan, will fight out that left tackle spot is likely how we see this end up playing out when training camp comes in late July. So those are really your big moves, right? Bringing back Isaiah McDuffie, linebacker, also a little bit of a move. But those are really only the 4 moves the Packers made this offseason in free agency, thus leading to a number 23 ranking for Benjamin Solak's list over on ESPN.com. And it's an interesting read because it kind of dives in to why they're ranked there, how they ranked there, and everything they essentially did this offseason. But the quote from that article that stuck out to me was, quote, if both become, this is in reference to Banks and Hobbs, if both become additive players for the Packers playoff push, nobody will care about a small overpay. But neither player is perfect, and there is substantial risk. That quote from Benjamin Solak on ESPN.com. So clearly, that indicates these signings, as it's viewed from a national perspective, are not home run swings. And for a fan base such as us, Packers fans, that expected a home run swing this offseason, whether that be at edge and trading for a Trey Hendrickson or a Myles Garrett or a Max Crosby, or upgrading the wide receiver position by trading for a DK Metcalf or signing the reunion piece, Devontae Adams, none of those happened. It was a guard. It was a second at best or third cornerback. That was your offseason. So for a team that has been in the postseason 2 years in a row, as the 7th seed in the NFC, and having a general manager that preached urgency, this free agency doesn't really preach urgency. It preaches, okay, we'll fix a couple of our problems, right? Offensive line didn't really look good in that wild card loss to Philly, so we'll bring in a proven offensive guard. after we lose our center, and we'll mix some things around, and our offensive line will be short up a little bit. And we really don't have that many cornerbacks on the roster, depending on what this team does with Jair Alexander, so we'll bring in a corner who can play a little bit all over the field. Okay. Does that tell you this is a Super Bowl team all of a sudden? The answer's no. It doesn't tell you this is a Super Bowl team all of a sudden. And it's a concern I've brought up a few times over the course of the last few weeks, but are the Packers falling behind the pack? Right? You see all these teams making different moves this offseason, whether that be, the Buffalo Bills, who ranked number 1 in Solak's rankings, whether it be the Washington Commanders, who were in the top 5 of Solak's rankings. The Philadelphia Eagles lose some pieces, but bring some back. The 49ers making moves. Like the Vikings, the Lions, the Bears, oh my, all making moves in the NFC North. So it makes you go, what are the Packers waiting for? And I know we've had the conversation of, well, there wasn't a ton out there, which I agree with. But this isn't a team who's drastically improved from that playoff loss in January. This is a team who's pretty much the same. And unless you have several pieces, I say again, several pieces, take a big jump in 2025, this isn't a team that's set to compete for a championship. It's a team that can maybe win a playoff game, maybe race for the NFC North against Detroit and Minnesota, and maybe even Chicago. As it stands right now, it looks like A, the NFC North going to be incredibly competitive, B, the NFC at large going to be incredibly competitive, and C, the Packers need big jumps from a lot of players, including the quarterback Jordan Love, including the receiver room, which has not changed one bit. The only change from last year to this year is Christian Watson isn't going to be ready week 1 or week 2 or week 3 or week 4 or week 5 or week 6. You got the same crew. Not a lot's changed. Not a big improvement. In fact, no improvement in that room at all. I'm a little bit concerned about what this Packers team looks like come 2025. All right, the looks keep being had. The TikToks are being watched. I'm being ignored. Joshy, go ahead.
I looked at you because did you forget about Mecole Hardman?
Yeah, I did.
There was change in the wide receiver room.
Significant change?
No, not at all. Closer to zero change, but there is a new name.
You're right.
A guy looking for a rental in Green Bay right now because he's a new resident.
Yeah, who was it? It was either you or Hunter that texted me asking if I had any suggestions. Believe it or not, fellas, I've never rented a home in Green Bay.
Not stunning.
I haven't lived there since I was 18, so
I think ranking or valuing what happens in free agency before anyone plays a snap, it lacks as much value as does grading first rounds or the draft after they happen. It means nothing to me. Zach Bond was probably the second most impactful free agent signing last season, and nobody would have even mentioned his name as a reason why it was a good thing. If you go back and look at the history of good free agent classes, more often than not, you're going to see a lot of bad teams, and you're going to see a lot of teams that get ranked highly for something that ends up blowing up in their face and not going the way they wanted it to. Short of Devontae Adams, the Green Bay Packers did what they needed to field the team and to improve it the way they do. I can't say I know better than Brian Gutekunst how to build a team and what to pay the players he's planning to. You can look at the contracts, you can call them overpay, whatever it is. It doesn't matter to me. None of that stuff is significant at all, and I think we're searching for outside influence and impacts when the biggest one that's going to make the biggest difference in 2025 is the one under playing quarterback that you signed to a big extension. Short of that, I don't know how much any of those names that got mentioned as additives or improvements would make a difference for the Green Bay Packers. They've got a wide receiver room that you'd certainly hope to see more out of. They've got an edge rushing class and room that also didn't prove to be that good. I think if we're looking at it, the Packers viewed those two positions as this will not be cost effective and improve our team to where we want to go. So we are going to address them via the NFL draft. I don't know how much of a difference it would mean to me if they signed two more guys that maybe had names. Like, what would an Amari Cooper, a Stephon Diggs, or any of those guys make you feel? Would it just make you feel better because you recognize their name? I don't know what. I think you set yourself up, and I'm using you as in general because this is the common place here. Yeah. This is the common belief. I think.
Oh, for once you're not taking a shot directly at me.
Correct,
that's good. Yeah,
correct.
that's good.
This is applying to multiple. I think I'll include myself, set ourselves up for failure.
Sure, and I don't disagree with that. However,
we expected something to happen that probably didn't make sense from a team building standpoint.
I understand that, Joshy. And again, I want to go back to something you said. Very brave of you to admit you do not know team building better than Brian Gutekunst. I'm going to give you credit on that.
I bet I could nail more first-round picks, though.
The other part is I think you're a better team builder than Aaron Rodgers. I think you got that going for you.
Count it. Put it on the board.
I'll say this, though, because when you bring up names like that, right, like the Amari Coopers, the Stephon Diggs, the Christian Kirks, right, whatever name you want to use that was a free agent veteran receiver, is the one thing they all had in common was veteran. Yes. And that is something that this team has desperately lacked now for years, even dating back to Aaron Rodgers' final year in Green Bay when Alan Lazard, I guess, was quasi the number one receiver that year. And I guess technically he was a veteran at the time because he was in his fourth or fifth year. But it is something that has lacked since then. It's something that we called out, and you and I would say before this was a popular thing talked about, I want to say it was November, December, where you and I were like, they need a veteran. They need somebody that's reliable. They need someone that's been there, done that. So even if it wasn't going to be Devontae, true number one, or the DK Metcalf, true number one. If it was never going to be the true number one proven commodity receiver, I would have at least liked to see a sexier veteran name than a McCole Hardman, who frankly ranks, number 4 at best on this Packers depth chart right now, following the three young guys that are healthy come week one in Dobbs, Wicks, and Reed. And I mean, maybe even Bo Melton's ahead of him in terms of the depth chart right now.
Bo Melton and him are going to be battling for a roster spot.
Correct.
It's going to be either or.
Now
may the best man win.
The one thing for Hardman, I think, where he has the advantage is he is a punt returner, yes, and he has been a kick returner. And it seems like Keyshawn Nixon, A, is going to get out of returning kicks, and B, Jaden Reed shouldn't be returning punts. If he's going
not that good at it.
Yeah, he hasn't been. No, he really hasn't been. He's had some bad plays back there. Mm-hmm. He had an injury back there at one point, and he's going to enter the season as your. If we did the depth chart thing, and we're going to do the same conversation, which I hate, that we did a year ago, who's the Packers' number one receiver? Well, they don't really have one. Is that better? Right? We're going to do that again. And if we have to choose right now, this day, March 26, 2025, who's the Packers receiver number one receiver as it stands right now? The answer is Jaden Reed. So you don't want him returning punts.
Which I find fascinating because I think it was Justice Mosqueda at Acme Packing did a breakdown of Jaden Reed. He's closer to a gadget player than he is like a number one wide receiver in terms of his usage and the way he almost never plays in two wide receiver sets. He almost exclusively plays out of the slot. Like Jaden Reed, this might be crazy to sound based off of like production and what we've seen. Uh-oh. But in terms of being a wide receiver one, it seems like Jaden Reed has further to go than like a Dontavian Wicks.
I actually think you're right.
I think the skill set and what he would have to learn to take that is different. Like I think Jaden Reed right now and in the past 2 years is a better wide receiver and more productive, but he has to sort of like reinvent himself in a way that I think might be difficult for him to become like a true wide receiver one, a guy we're talking about as a top 15 talent at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, skill set is the word, right? I mean, Jaden Reed is 5'11". It's not like the most daunting stature for a
very
receiver.
Similar to Deebo Samuel in size and stature, and honestly, the way they both win on the field and are productive on the field.
Yeah, Wicks about 6'1", but also great off the line of scrimmage, yes, good release, good route runner. The issue for both of those guys we're talking about last year, especially
catching the damn ball,
was hands. Yeah, both of those guys top 10 in the league in drops. The Packers obviously ranked number 1 in the league as a team.
I've seen them doing their training, which I'm glad they're doing it together. Romeo Dobbs is even there taking part. I don't know why there's not videos of them just standing in front of jugs machines and running and just balls flying at their faces.
That would be your training regimen if you were advising them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Just more.
It's probably not the worst idea, actually.
Like, right, just have them catch 200 balls a day each.
And maybe they're doing that. I mean,
they could be.
There's no way to say.
It's not as good for the IG likes, I'll tell you that much. More so as you run in like a complicated route that you'd never actually run in an NFL game.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I never expected Josh DiMaggio to hit me with the sentence, probably not great for the IG likes. Do you even have an Instagram?
No.
Okay.
No.
Didn't think you did. All right, Hunter, go ahead.
No, I was just going to, on top of what Josh said, like, you got to do the Ben Simmons in the offseason thing. Oh, okay, everyone says I can't shoot threes. Only going to post videos of me shooting threes in an empty gym. Those guys just need to constantly be posting videos of them catching balls from the jugs machine all summer long.
It was crazy. Ben Simmons still in the league.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. Plays for the Clippers. Doug McDermott, by the way, also still in the league.
Dougie Buckets.
Creighton played last weekend, obviously.
Mick Buckets. Sorry.
And his father is still the head coach. Greg, I believe his name is Greg McDermott, still the head coach at Creighton. Didn't realize Doug was still in the league, so good for him.
I mean, he's got size and he can shoot.
Sure can.
That works.
That works in the NBA.
That'll keep you employed.
That translates. No doubt about that. That translates. Hey, interesting comment here to go back to our earlier conversation from Jonathan on the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube chat. Free agency isn't just who they added, but also who they didn't lose. And you're right? That's why I mentioned the McManus re-signing. That's why I mentioned the McDuffie re-signing. And by the way, I've always been high on Isaiah McDuffie. I like him. He's the only remaining player from
drafted player from 2021
from the 2021 draft class on the Packers, which is crazy as a 7th round pick in that draft. And Jordan Love, the only one left now from 2020, obviously the 1st round pick in that draft. So Goody at least acknowledges, okay, if you're not really worth my time, you can go ahead and go elsewhere, and that's what he's done with each of those draft classes. Unless you're a kicker. Finally moved on from Anders, but that took a while too. But to Jonathan's point also is this is still the youngest team in the league.
Yeah.
So when I make a comment like what is necessary for this team to get to that next level rather than be left behind is a significant jump for multiple players. The good news, I'll be positive here. The good news for the Packers is they are still young. They are still evolving. They are still getting better. They still have plenty to learn, which is why I think a veteran presence specifically in the receiver room would have been a beneficial add, no matter if it was a top-level guy or not. And McCole Hardman, I guess, by definition, is technically a veteran player. She's not a high-level one. I'm not saying it's impossible for some guys to take jumps, right? It's not impossible for us to see the next evolution of Jordan Love. It's not impossible for us to see the next evolution of Tucker Kraft and Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks. It's not impossible for us to see what that next level is for a guy like Edgerrin Cooper or some of those rookie defensive backs from last year, and Bullard and Williams and even Oladapo, who we didn't see a ton of last year. So all in all, can some of these guys make jumps? Absolutely. Are they championship level jumps? That I have a hard time believing. But sure, can some of these young guys, being the youngest team in the league still, make improvements in the offseason and that translate to the field of play next year? Sure. But does that equal Super Bowl talent? That's the part I struggle with.
So, like, when we harp on the veteran thing, I haven't watched the Packers and thought they needed, like, more veteran leadership. The veteran thing is more along the lines of proven commodity.
Yeah.
You know what you're getting,
sure,
type of deal. I think the Packers have made hay on getting guys who probably haven't shown it fully, and then they are underpaid for actually how good they are when they are used. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Nate Hobbs is healthy that Keyshawn is the CB1 in name, but the more talented one and the more productive one is the other one on the other side of the field. I wouldn't be shocked by that because I don't think we've seen fully what Nate Hobbs could develop into, especially with the DB coach who's now the defensive coordinator. It seems like there's a potential that every corner or defensive back as a whole that comes into Jeff Hafley's defense is just going to be better than maybe everyone thought they were. Because Evan Williams instantly made an impact. Javon Bullard instantly made an impact. Xavier McKinney was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. I think the veteran thing is more so the Packers obviously lacked a consistent, reliable target at wide receiver. And the best way to improve that is not through the draft, where you could get a guy who's going to have his ups and downs. It is getting a Devontae Adams or somebody who He's played in the league for a long time, and you know what you're going to get day in and day out, where that's just not the case really with any of the Packers wide receiver, be it Jaden Reed or Dontavian Wicks. Add in Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs to that. Those are two guys that you would hope would be more reliable, and they've been anything but at this point. And it's not just injury related. It's like, what can you do out there? Are you somebody that Jordan Love can turn to and say, you're going to be where I need you to be, and you're going to make the catch?
You're going to be my dude.
And I don't think anyone's done that. You can make a case for Tucker Kraft, and I think we're going to end up talking ourselves into Tucker Kraft as the, hey, there's a case here. It's Mahomes and Gronk, Brady and Gronk, Mahomes and Kelsey. This can work.
Whoever and Kittle, right.
Yeah. Purdy and Kittle. What a funny.
Purdy and
Romo
Kittle.
and Witten, right?
Garoppolo and Kittle, I think.
Talking about Witten, Jason Witten was the bane of my existence his final few years in the league.
Why?
Because he caught the ball. He was barely ever open, but caught it every time, and he'd get 4 yards at a time, and it was the worst football in the world to watch.
Real quick timeout. Did you just go, speaking of Witten, and reference something from 7 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure we're on the same page.
He mentioned Romo and Witten.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on,
And
great
it's
QB and
the
tight
least-
end combo.
It was the least aesthetically pleasing form of football I've ever watched.
So Aaron Banks has missed games every year of his career.
Uh-huh.
Nate Hobbs has missed games every year of his career. These are both guys who are coming off their rookie deal and now have signed their second contract with the Packers in the offseason, who have dealt with injuries every year. Not bad injuries, nothing that it was season-ending for either of those guys, but have missed a couple of games each year, at least, right? For Hobbs, I think he missed a total of 7 games a couple of years back. For Banks, he missed 3 games this past year, 4 games this past year, 3 different injuries. 4 different injuries. He missed week 1 of this year with a finger, a thigh in week 11, concussion in 13 and 14, and a knee injury in week 17. So, I mean, these are guys that hopefully are more durable in Green Bay, but for the amount of money he signed him for, which was each of them handsomely paid, not the most durable, which is always a good sign. So we will see how those pan out. I'm not doubting the signings. I think ultimately they're going to be fine or good signings, but they are not as sexy, to use a word that is banned in one word, which we'll play in just a bit, as maybe we had hoped they would be. So we will see. We will continue the Packers conversation Friday.
I think
Go ahead, last lot.
We suffer a lot from fantasy football brain, just as a football consuming community. It's names we recognize and guys that help us on our fantasy teams. If you're not building that way, people don't view you as that important. And I don't think that's the right way to build a team. Some teams build their teams like that and are pretty good. It seems like they add all the good players and are good. It feels like for the most case, though, teams that build like that end up with an embarrassment.
Yeah. To a point, I think. I mean, yes.
Even just adding Devontae Adams still leaves the Packers with major holes. And
Agreed.
I think it would be a salve of sorts, but I think it would also make us forget about the other things that struggled. And to me, nothing's going to matter as much as Jordan Love, and it's going to keep going back to that. Jordan Love wasn't good enough. Jordan Love was also injured, but Jordan Love wasn't nearly good enough throughout the most important parts of every single game. And that, I don't care if he's throwing to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. It wouldn't matter that much. Either he's great or he's not.
Yeah. And you saw less of it this past year than you did the year prior.
Yes.
And obviously, I mean, it's an excuse, but we can give it to him, right? He dealt with injuries quite a bit last year.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can stay healthy, right? He dealt with the knee right off the gates.
I'm not saying I don't think he can become that.
No, I'm not either.
Yeah,
I'm not either.
I'm not ready to sell the farm on it. I just think had the season finished on a great Jordan Love game and the defense let us down, I think we'd feel different.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
If Jordan Love lit it up, had 400 yards passing and a couple touchdowns to go with it, I don't think we would be so desperate about a wide receiver one.
Yeah, tend to agree. All right, let's go to this because this was kind of the big news yesterday. Bucks star Damian Lillard diagnosed with deep vein thrombosis. also known as a blood clot in his right calf. He will be sidelined indefinitely, which is he's missed the last couple of games. Doc Rivers and Eric Name of The Athletic, our buddy Eric Name, had kind of a weird back and forth 2 nights ago, which was Doc essentially non-committal about what the injury was, but that he wasn't getting better, but that, he'll have more news eventually, but doesn't really know what's going on. This is the news that I assume Doc knew and did not want to be the one to report, that it is a blood clot for Damian Lillard. So the first thought I think for everybody is, damn, like that sucks. Hope Damian Lillard can recover. He'll be all right, because that is no joke, right? I mean, when you think of the word blood clot and NBA players, you think of Chris Bosh, that ultimately ended his career with some issues in his lungs. You think about Victor Wembanyama, who had blood clots in his shoulder, and it has ended his season. So obviously for Dame, from a health perspective, you just hope the guy's all right, because he's a great player. He's a great guy. He's a great part of the National Basketball Association. Now, the second part obviously goes to the game, right? To the Bucks. And without Dame, I hate to break it to you, but I don't think this is breaking news. You're not winning a title without your starting point guard and your second best player. So all of that stinks. This from Chris Haynes on Twitter, who did a great job, obviously has covered Damian Lillard forever, was part of our Bucks Plus coverage of the Damian Lillard story, the Damian Lillard documentary, which you can find wherever you get your podcasts. Damian Lillard saying this to Chris Haynes, quote, "It's unfortunate that something outside of my control would come up. Along with the Bucks medical staff, our priorities are to protect my health and safety. As much as I love basketball, I need to be there for my kids and my family. I'm grateful the Bucks acted quickly on this. They've been supportive and proactive throughout this process. I look forward to moving past this and continuing my career," end quote, from Damian Lillard. It's no timeline. That's the tough part about this. The playoffs are 3 weeks away in the NBA. The Bucks currently going through a little bit of a skid and likely will continue tonight as they head to Denver and take on the Nuggets with Damian Lillard out. Giannis also will miss tonight's game against the Nuggets. The Bucks, I believe, have lost 4 of their last 6. They are tied for 5th place in the Eastern Conference. And a loss tonight would put them back into 6th place, which means you are getting very, very close to the play-in, which would certainly not be ideal for a team that just 2 weeks ago had a couple-game lead in 4th place of the Eastern Conference. There's nothing really to say here other than, holy crap, hope this gets fixed fast, because the playoffs are rapidly approaching for Milwaukee, and this is a team that needs Giannis and Dame on the floor if they want to compete with the Cavs, and if they want to compete with the Knicks, and if they want to compete with the Celtics. You need both those guys available. And I know it's cliche. I know it's repetitive. I know I say this a lot when it comes specifically to the NBA players, or playoffs rather. But you need 3 things. You need to be good. You need to be lucky. You need to be healthy. The Bucks have not been 2 of those 3 things each of the last 3 years, coming off of their title run in 2021. They've dealt with Chris Middleton injuries, who's now obviously a Wizard. They've dealt with Giannis injuries 2 of the last couple of years. Last playoffs, they didn't have they didn't have Dame for a portion of that Pacers series. They didn't have Giannis for a portion of that Pacers series. There was games where it was literally just Chris Middleton, and as much of a cape as he tried to put on and play superhero, it just wasn't enough against the Pacers team. Without Dame, you're not making it past the first round, I don't think. And if you do, the road ends there in the second round. So hope he gets better. Hope it's all right. Hope it is handled. I'm glad it was caught when it is, because obviously that is a really scary situation. As I run through some of the other names that have dealt with similar situations. But Damian Lillard is a great, and he is obviously a part of the heartbeat of this Milwaukee Bucks team, who has had a really up and down couple of years since his arrival. But without him, there was not a playoff run for the Milwaukee Bucks, and that is obviously the game part of this, which stinks for Bucks fans, Joshy.
Yeah, I mean, your heart breaks for Dame. That is something serious. It is literally life or death. You feel for him in that moment, and you feel for what his teammates must think, and just the letdown of what they were hoping was another chance at a title run. It feels like this iteration of the Bucks were never meant to get there. It feels like something pops up every season that is a big roadblock put in front of them that is nearly impossible to surpass. As you said, no Dame, no title. That's just what we need to get accustomed to there. It feels like there was an impediment put in front of the post-championship Bucks every single year that had nothing really to do with what was happening on the court. It had a lot to do with injuries and just sort of not meant to be type of situation. And that is discouraging. I think no Dame really leaves you at a loss, and leaves you at a loss for trying to figure out what the hell your future is.
Totally.
It leaves so many question marks where I think every option has to be thought of and considered as what might happen to this version of the Milwaukee Bucks. I think you have to table again and talk about, well, is Giannis's future still in Milwaukee after this? What do they do with Dame? Does Dame ever get to play again?
Yeah.
You have to consider every option, and I'm sure they are over at Fiserv Forum, considering what possibly to do from here, because even if you try and move on from Dame, there's an inherent risk at getting sort of any clear diagnosis. I remember Chris Bosh was like searching basically anybody possible who would give him the clearance to play.
Yeah, I remember that.
Now his was different because his were multiple and it was like a repeat, but there's no saying, we have no idea what's going to happen especially with the stages of it.
It's not like this is an ACL.
Yes.
Right? Where, okay, surgery, 9 to 12 month timetable. Correct. And hopefully he's back.
And that's what's so scary about the Wemby thing. It made you think, whoa, what could this mean? And Dame obviously has played a lot more of his career. I've seen a lot, but his days also just in terms of his effectiveness in the NBA, they're getting thinner and thinner. And now it's a wasted season. This window you thought you kicked back open with Damian Lillard feels shut. It feels like, is it going to work next year now? Like, maybe you try and run it back, but does that make sense? Does that benefit the Bucks? Does that keep building for the future? Or is it like a one and done, you get one last chance at it and it's blow it up and start all over?
It's certainly an option on the table, but that's the tough part about the indefinite timetable, right? Is this 3 weeks? Is this 6 weeks? Is this 3 months? Is this 6 months? Is it never again?
Yeah.
And that's what we will, continue to monitor, but I imagine we won't have many answers. He's on blood thinning medication, which has stabilized the clot, according to the team. He went through a series of meetings with specialists over the past several days, according to ESPN's Shams Charania. He's been on thinners for a period of time now. Like, that's all the information we have. So
yeah, and to my understanding is those things you kind of have to run for a while before you can really do anything of activity, because of the risk. If you were to get a cut, it would not stop bleeding, that type of stuff. So there, it is a very serious thing, and even if he were to be on the short end of the timeline for something like this, it still sort of totally rules out playoffs, because you have to regain conditioning, you have to get back into the swing of things. Like, it's not one of those things where you could you can't keep working out with one of these. No. You can't stay in basketball shape. So it really, really puts you in a point where you are looking at what's next season. And what does that look like for the Bucks?
Woof. Fun stuff, Joshy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, hope the best for Dame and hope the best for the Bucks, but certainly not great news coming out last night from ESPN Shams Charania and other sources. All right, we do this each and every Wednesday. Hunter's got a list of topics. We will respond with one word. I don't know. We've been mixing it up a little bit. Sometimes Joshy's been throwing some at me. Sometimes Joshy's been playing. I'm not exactly sure where this one's headed, but we will kick it over to Hunter in the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison, and we will take it from there. It is time to play a little One Word Wednesday.
Joshy can join in on these. We're going to start in the NBA with the Milwaukee Bucks. The power rankings, the Bucks fall from number 11 to number 13 this week.
Correct. I mean, look, the slide they've been on the last week has not been pretty. As I mentioned earlier, I imagine that slide continues tonight in Denver with no Giannis, with no Dame, obviously, for the foreseeable future. That will probably be the highest they land on this power rankings the rest of the season.
I was going to say generous.
Russell Wilson, Tommy DeVito, and Jameis Winston are the New York Giants QB room for next year.
Electric. I mean, it is an absolute electric factory. I wish they could have. I imagine they will not have Hard Knocks, given that they did the offseason one last year. But can you imagine the conversations the three of these people are having? I mean, that is the most electric trio you could conjure up.
They're not going to have much.
Yeah, that's probably true.
My word is resume, because everybody involved with the New York Giants should be freshening theirs up and getting ready to send it to other teams in the NFL or in college football.
ESPN.com writers picked the Cubs to win the division over the Brewers.
Go ahead, Josh. Yeah, I got a word.
Haters.
It's one of them.
Wrong.
My word is Salvatore. Did you see that man swinging the bat in spring training? You see him all jacked up? Here come the Brewers, baby. Watch out. Haters is a good word.
We might need to ban Salvatore because if the first thing that comes to mind about the Brewers is Salvatore Frelick.
Outfield. That outfield is stacked.
Youth. Jackson.
He's part of that outfield.
Freddie. You. Yo-ho.
Yo-ho.
You.
You.
I've got one word quick here.
Okay.
I want to throw it. I used the word, and Ron and the Key DM'd me this. One word, salve. Do you know what that word means?
Can you spell it?
S-A-L-V-E. I used the word when I was talking, and I thought you were going to stop me and say, what?
When did you say it?
When I describe something as being a salve to their problems. I believe Devontae Adams would be a salve.
Okay, like stopgap, like quick fix, Band-Aid.
It is described as an ointment used to promote healing of the skin or as protection. Soothe would also work in that.
I could use a salve. I got dry skin right now.
Brother, I got eczema.
I do too.
Same.
Eczema.
All three of us.
We should rebrand the show.
Do we all three have asthma?
Yeah.
I also have asthma, yes.
Hey, look at that.
Healthy show.
The ESPN.com writers.
I don't think eczema and asthma are connected.
No, they are. Like from
genetics thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Are eczema and asthma linked? Yes, eczema and asthma are often linked and can occur together. Often referred to as the atopic march, where eczema in childhood can increase the risk of developing asthma and other allergies in life.
I'd like one word from you now.
On that?
Sorry.
The ESPN.com writers also don't have the Brewers making the postseason. They have the Diamondbacks, Phillies, and Mets as the wild card teams.
Oh, we've got the same word, I bet. 1, 2, 3. Idiots.
I was going to say bozos.
Okay, we're close.
Yeah.
Close enough. Mike Tannenbaum has the Packers picking Siobhan Revel Jr., the cornerback from East Carolina.
Right? Yeah. I've seen that a lot. Sure.
I've got two words, but they're not related. One is fine. I'd be okay with it. Two would be unlikely. I don't see them drafting a corner in the first round.
Oh, I do. I think it's super possible.
I think it's less likely than wide receiver.
You know, something to keep an eye on this time of year, real quick, Hunter, before we get back to one word, is the top 30 visits. And that doesn't always necessarily correlate to who they're going to draft. They didn't have one with Jordan Morgan last year.
No, but they're the majority of their. Well, I shouldn't say majority. About half of their draftees will be people they bring in.
Correct.
They've been doing that a lot.
These top 30 visits, right? Later round guys. I haven't looked at last year's yet, but I would imagine there's quite a few on there. But something I'll also keep an eye on is the position groups they're looking at, right? Because that kind of gives you a tell of they view that as a position of need. They've only done 3 of their 30 so far, still 27 to go. 2 of them are edge rushers, 1 of them is an offensive tackle. So.
There
trenches.
has been updates. There's been more tackles.
Okay,
and
great.
Isaiah Bond, the wide receiver.
Oh.
Interesting.
I didn't see that one. That's interesting.
You know what name I didn't say in there? Cornerback.
That's a good point. Good point.
ESPN.com tiered the losing teams from March Madness on a pain index. They had Marquette as not mad, just disappointed.
I just can't look at Hunter in that vest. I can't take him seriously.
Is gun show 1 or 2 words?
Oh, man. Not mad, just disappointed. No. The word is no. They were 17. Like, you should be mad. Now, I understand you didn't have championship expectations, but you should at least expect a win in the first round. I would say no. You should be mad.
I think it's fair. Fair.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think Marquette fans' expectations were that high. You'd like to win a round of 64 game, but I don't think anyone had them really making it past the round of 32. So at that point, it's kind of like one or done or not. Like, what does it matter? Because the team overall disappointed me.
Running into a lawnmower in Michigan State in the second round. You're right,
Yeah.
but
Anyway. They had the Badgers as you had one shot, one opportunity. And that was also higher on the pain index.
is that an Eminem reference?
Yes.
Yes. If you had one shot, one opportunity.
To seize everything you ever want at one moment, would you capture to let it slip?
I despise Eminem.
Cheesy.
Accurate. I think that felt like a really good chance to sort of change the narrative on Greg Gard, on the Badgers a little bit. It's certainly disappointing. I don't know if we felt mad about it, but yeah, John Tonjes don't happen all the time. And that feels like a squandered opportunity.
I hear you.
With a special player who had a special season.
I hear you. But look, I mean, BYU shot the heck out of the basketball. And look, yes, I agree with you in terms of the Greg Gard narrative. I think it should be changed regardless, given how he adapted this year and reinvented himself and the offense and the way he does things by attacking the portal. That should be enough to win people over, but I hear you. You're probably right about that.
In their description of the Badgers, they also called Wisconsin the Fighting Tonjays this season.
Cool.
I think that's selling John Blackwell short.
The Fighting Johns.
Oh. Did they call it the Tonjays?
No, it was the Tonjays, but they should have called it the Fighting Johns.
Yes.
Or the Johnnies.
I think Blackwell was extremely impressive, and I think most teams in the country would be happy to have a guy like him on their
Well,
team.
it sounds, every indication says he'll be back.
Yes.
Which is fantastic. I'm excited to see how he continues to develop and evolve for Wisconsin. But the Fighting Johns would have been better, I agree. Yeah.
This one from Joseph S. I saw this one in the YouTube chat. He wants your guys' thoughts on the Badgers' new women's basketball coach coming from Missouri.
Underwhelming is the word.
Why?
Yeah, why would it be another word? I get you want to bring in somebody that's had, I don't even want to say success, that knows how to build a program. She's been a coach in NCAA for 35 years. I get it. It just didn't seem, and I thought Jim Polzin wrote a great article in the Wisconsin State Journal. You're shaking your head. Did you read this as well?
I was going to mention the same article.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good article, and it was fairly critical of Chris McIntosh's process. It just didn't seem like the swing that they needed to rejuvenate the program. I mean, Wisconsin basketball, women's basketball, has been bad my entire life. They've always been bad. And, you know, I know Jason Wilde, our buddy from Wilde and Tausch, and obviously you've heard him a million times on this show. He wanted to make the case for Brad Fisher, who's the head coach at UW Oshkosh. Now, D3 to D1 is quite a jump and an adjustment, but it would be at least an in-state move that is exciting, and that's not what you get with this hire.
Yeah, I could at least understand a swing by going with a D3 coach. This was just felt weird. One last one. I'm working on a food take that I'm going to run past the two of you here. I think
I like where this is headed.
Yeah.
Workshopping.
Any baked good that involves fruit is both a great dessert and an excellent breakfast item.
You can't eat apple pie for breakfast, Hunter.
Sure
Yes, you can. And that's a great breakfast.
I don't know. Great.
I don't know about great. Yeah.
Delicious.
I don't think it's very good for you. Right? Don't they say breakfast is the most important meal of the day?
I believe that's a lie.
And that would be a great way to set up my day. Apple pie, that'd be awesome.
Let's be honest. Would you, per capita, be happier per day
per capita.
Yeah. Would you, on a day-by-day basis, be happier if every day started with apple pie?
Yes.
Oh, you might be onto something there.
Now, the long-term effects of that might lead you down a worse road because 365 days of apple pie I don't think is really sustainable. But I would tell you this much. If I had apple pie for breakfast today, I'd be in an even better mood than I am. Instead, I had a piece of toast.
My word here is finished. We are finished with this game.
I thought we did good.
I thought this was one of our better ones.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Thank you. You're welcome for my service, by the way.
Yeah, great job. Incredible. All right, that does it for One Word Wednesday. Nice job, Hunter. That was an interesting one. All right, let's do this. Opening day tomorrow, by the way, for the Milwaukee Brewers. They take on the New York Yankees. That game will be broadcast on ESPN nationally, and Joe Buck will call his first baseball game in 4 years, which is, number one, exciting because he's terrific at baseball. He will be joined in the booth by Rock. Bill Schrader will join him on the national call, as well as a Yankees guy. I don't have his name in front of me, but the Yankees color guy on TV. I agreed, irrelevant in this case. Will also be in the call. It'll be a three-man booth. But really cool thing ESPN is doing, and good to see Joe Buck back, obviously. Joe Buck brings a big game feel, and to have him on Brewers-Yankees for opening day tomorrow, really exciting. Couple of takeaways from spring training, which I got to be honest, I think I paid more attention to spring training than I ever have.
Oh, great. No, he's a spring training guy.
I didn't say that.
College hoops guy, NBA guy, spring training guy.
Yeah, you just got to pick your lane.
Disease. Yeah.
I didn't say I was a spring training guy.
You're all over the highway.
Yeah.
I said
You're just spray and pray. Hope you have takes. Like,
hopefully people will listen to me when I become the 80th guy this year.
Like, seriously, man. It's okay if you don't know a lot about a sport. No one's going to crucify you for that. You could just be a football guy and it's okay. You want to be a college hoops guy? Fine, take 2. You get 2+, way too many.
Yeah.
It gets excessive.
You're guy drunk.
It's exactly what it is.
I said I was a spring training guy.
Yeah, you're going to try and sell it.
I
chopped you off at the knees before you could get there.
All I said, and I quote, I paid attention more to spring training than I ever have.
Yep.
Which means more than not at all.
And then you're going to speak as an authority. You're going to follow it up, and we're going to have to. I mean, whenever the Brewers come up, you say Salvatore. That's as much as we get out of you.
Well, you want to know who I was about to bring up?
No, are you going to bring up the interesting things about Salvatore Frelick?
I was going to bring up the fact he added 15 pounds of muscle. I talked to our buddy Dominic Catronio.
What has that translated into?
I'm about to get there. Talked to our buddy Dom Catronio yesterday. Brewers Radio Network. Brewers Extra Innings. Brewers Warm Up.
You approached Dom Catronio, great teammate of ours here, and said, "You got to tell me more about Salvatore Frelick."
That's exactly what I said.
So annoying.
You're the worst.
Annoying.
So I sat down and ate lunch yesterday, and Dom happened to be sitting at the table next to me. I said, "Hey, Dom, welcome back. You look tan. I was Arizona. He was down there for like a month."
Jealous.
Also jealous. I could use some warmth. My eczema might be cured. I said, so I got to know. And I said, Dom, you know I'm a huge Sal Frelick guy.
You know. No, he doesn't know that.
He does know that because I've asked him about him before. And I go, is the hype real? He goes, all right, so he's about my height. He's probably about 5'7", 5'8". He looks huge. I go, hell yeah, he does. 390 average in 15 games of spring training. 2 home runs in 15 games of spring training and 10 RBI. Now, again, it's spring training. Take it with a grain of salt. But a 390 average ain't too shabby in 15 games for Sal Frelick. How about Jackson Chourio? A 469 average in 17 games in spring training. Only 1 home run, but 8 RBI as well. 9 doubles, 6 stolen bases for Jackson Chourio. I bring this up because there is so much natural excitement for this Brewers team because they're young, undaunted, obviously. One of their catchphrases from a year ago with the NL Manager of the Year, Pat Murphy, in his first year. This is a team that just doesn't know any better. They know winning. They know expectations. And Hunter brought up the expectations. This is not a team that is supposed to win the NL Central, yada, 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 all that BS. This is a team that's going to compete. They're going to be back in the mix. They've added some arms. Josh, you mentioned Yoo-Hoo Yoho, who will likely be on the opening day roster. I haven't seen the finality of that yet. I don't know if I used the word finality correctly.
Yeah, that was a swing and a miss.
I thought I saw somebody indicate that some of the moves they had made pointed signs to him being on the roster.
Good.
I don't know if it was like an official announcement, but they said with the amount of guys left, it would make sense for him to make it. The Sal Frelick stuff that I think is interesting, it is super inside baseball, but in terms of just getting jacked, it's 14 batted balls tracked by StatCast this spring. Average exit velocity of those balls was 91.8 miles per hour, and one was the hardest tracked ball he's ever hit. He's also added onto that a higher line drive factor that comes from Jack Stern on Twitter. His problem was he smacked the ball into the ground, didn't get the ball in the air. As we all know, you need to be hitting home runs, you need to be hitting the ball into the gaps. If he can be more than a slightly average player, if he can become above average, that'd be great for the Brewers.
Totally agree.
Everything hinges on Jackson Chourio. Does he become full-fledged superstar?
Yes.
And does Christian Yelich maintain a level of health that keeps him at the top of the Brewers order and being one of the more effective, despite not as good as he once was, one of the more effective hitters in baseball?
He's going to be probably more DH than he is outfielder this year, I would guess.
It would make a lot of sense.
Which is fine, right? Like, you need his bat more so than you need his outfielding at this point.
We need to do everything to keep him healthy.
And we know how good Chourio is and young, right? We know how good Sal Frelick is in the outfield. Obviously, Garrett Mitchell going to be healthy at the start of this year. So you've got options out there, which is really exciting. Blake Perkins potentially as well, depending on how this roster shakes out. So
I'm feeling a Garrett Mitchell breakout year.
I like that take. I think that's a good take.
That would be awesome.
By the way, we will not have a live show Monday.
I won't be here on Monday.
Speaking of Brewers, I won't either.
I'll be housing Brewers.
Neither will I.
I will as well. All three of us will be at opening day. We will all be at AmFam.
Should we try and get together at some point and do a quick reaction video of the game as it's happening?
That might not be our best idea.
What do you mean?
I don't know if I will be in a space to have a microphone.
What if we, instead of talking on a microphone, we all just do a beer bong together?
You learn something new every day. We learned something new today. And it's time now for what we learned on Mr. Irrelevant. We will stay in the world of baseball, but we will go to the Mets. David Stearns, obviously the former president of baseball operations in Milwaukee, now the GM out in New York. The Mets announcing they will have a 5-borough mascot race at games this season at Citi Field. Brooklyn will be represented by the Pizza Slice. Manhattan will be represented by the Skyscraper. For Staten Island, there will be a ferry. For the Bronx, because of the zoo, there will be a giraffe. And for Queens, there will be the literal subway. And if you're watching on the video stream, you can see the video from SNY in New York showing all of these mascots. Josh, he tweeted about this yesterday. I'm just going to let him tell you what his tweet said.
David Stearns is a scoundrel and a thief. You leave Milwaukee, that's fine. I didn't even begrudge it. It makes sense. There's a lot of money floating around in New York. It's been your dream to be there. You are a New York guy. You got everything you wanted. You took over the Mets, and now you have one of the more likely to win a World Series rosters in all of baseball. You had to go and steal the one super Milwaukee thing.
Yep.
And you had to do it in a way that sucks. Those mascots suck. The way they stand.
Look how dumb they look.
It's so dumb. It is, at least the pierogies and the presidents, those are kind of funny. They are an homage. This is just a blatant ripoff and trying to make your own thing. Do something else. Do anything else. Like, what are they going to put up a get up, get out of here, gone in their outfield soon? Like, what is this?
So
it's corny. It's boring. It's not going to work. It's not going to have the same effect.
It's not going to have the juice, for sure, right?
You're going to have a statue. You're going to have a skyscraper running? A giraffe? What is that?
The giraffe should win every race. It's the only thing that actually runs.
It's forced, too.
Oh, it's super forced.
It's so forced. Those things representing each borough, it sort of makes sense, but you still have to think about it.
I just want to provide a little bit of context because the Brewers were the first to do anything like this.
Yes.
This was introduced in the early 1990s. Obviously, the five sausages, right? Brat, Polish, Italian, chorizo, and hot dog.
Was
obviously.
it originally 4, then they added the chorizo later?
Chorizo was added like mid-2000s.
I was going to say, I remember the Chorizo coming on the map.
Now, in the early 2000s, the Pittsburgh Pirates introduced the Great Pierogi Race. Pierogi's obviously a Ohio, Pennsylvania staple, right? Pierogies are big out there, so Pittsburgh has
Poles.
that. Huh?
The Poles.
It's a Polish.
Is that Polish people?
Yes. It's a Polish.
Why don't we have that?
item.
Isn't there a lot of Polish people in Wisconsin?
There are not as many as there are Germans, though.
Got it.
By the way,
let's go
pierogi's
to-
delicious.
I never had one.
Love pierogi.
Never had one. We'll have
You
to do
would
that
love 'em.
someday. You guys,
Thanks,
Hunter.
best pierogies I ever had was after about 18 beers in New York City at Veselka. I believe it is a 24-hour diner that is just known for their pierogies.
I always forget about Josh's New York tenure. So Washington, D.C., the Nationals obviously do the president's race, right? So Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Roosevelt. A William Howard Taft mascot raced for 4 years. Herbert Hoover was around for a couple years. Taft, Coolidge, and Hoover have retired to Florida and sometimes will show up. The Rays do a drink race because they're at Tropicana Field, which is PepsiCo, so Pepsi Max, Aquafina, Sierra Mist. The Guardians and the Royals do hot dog races. So it's not like this is it's kind of a common thing now in Major League Baseball. The Houston Astros for a while did the Taco Bell sauce race between fire and mild,
Yes.
and hot. So it's not abnormal, but this is a legitimate ripoff. What are you staring at? What's wrong?
There's somebody with signs that you would like picket signs.
Oh.
And I was wondering if they were going to be utilizing them, but they seem to just be holding them.
Okay, I didn't know if there was.
I didn't know if we were getting protested here. I was gonna give you live updates.
Do you think our program would be protested?
Yeah, for you having such bad takes.
I was going to say, you sure it's not me being bad?
I have a legitimate question. Legitimate question before we wrap up the show. Hunter, is Josh funny, or does he just take layups?
No, he's funny. His layups are perfectly timed, which is what makes them funny.
Okay,
you take layups and you like stare at the camera and you like let it build. Josh just goes. That's the difference.
Hard to the hole, baby.
Dramatic layups for me. All right, that will do it for us today. We're back with you Friday beginning at 12:30. Reminder, we're not going to do a live show Monday. We'll have something in the podcast feed, Apple Podcast, Spotify for Monday and opening day. Why did you just show me an Expo marker?
I was trying to get it to fling at you across the room. It didn't work.
Bye.